Liz is with Drew at the hospital when he starts to wake up. Drew's first words are, "Is Willow here?" Liz claims Willow is with his daughter, Scout. Portia enters and discusses his vital signs with Liz. Drew instantly requests another doctor, but she insists he will remain under her care until another doctor arrives and takes over his case. Does Alexis have an alibi? In Anna's office, she sends Dante to speak with Drew now that he is awake. Alexis comes and Anna and Chase have questions for her, but she won't speak without her lawyer. Diane soon arrives and the questionings start. Alexis tells that she was in court all day, assisting Stella. After court she drove home. Anna inquires as to when Drew served her with the restraining order. Diane objects because this feels like a cross-examination. Anna explains that she is only trying to build a timeline. Alexis explains that she was with Drew when she received the order. She says she was unhappy about the restraining order, attempted to fight it legally but lost, and Scout is now in Willow's custody. Alexis goes on to state that the night in issue, she arrived home at 9 p.m., as she was finishing up a call with her assistant. Curtis then stopped by to talk about his aunt and left around 9:15. Christina arrived 5 minutes later, accompanied by Eva. She explains that she was trying to broker peace between them for Avery's sake, and they were there for approximately 2 hours until Dante arrived to question Christina and Eva. Diane says her client has cooperated and the interview is over. What does Drew remember? Dante arrives in the hospital to visit Drew. He asks Drew if he remembers anything from last night. Drew recounts being shot in the back after preparing a drink and retrieving a diamond from his safe. He was shot in front of his fireplace. He recalls falling, which is the last thing he remembers. Does Michael have an alibi? Michael meets Curtis at the Port Charles Grill. He gives Curtis the article about Drew and Jacinda and claims he was with her the night Drew was shot, so he needs to find her. Curtis happens to know who she is and tells him everything about Jacinda. They are interrupted when Portia informs Curtis that Drew is awake and chatting with the cops. Curtis needs to rush to the hospital, but he informs Michael that Jacinda works for Exclusive Models, which was a cover for an escort agency. Back at the hospital, Portia discovers Jacinda in her office. Jacinda reveals that she has spent all of the money Drew paid her to stay away and needs more. She hoped Drew might help her, but he shot himself, so Portia and Nina are the next best thing. Portia claims Jacinda will not receive a payday from them, and she cannot bring them down without also being punished for assaulting Drew. Jacinda departs in a huff. Meanwhile, Dante continues to investigate Drew, asking what he had in his safe to see if anything had been stolen. Drew claims there is classified material in there, and the PCPD does not have permission to search his belongings despite knowing there was evidence against Portia. Dante inquires as to who might have a motivation to attack him, and Drew immediately names Michael. Dante exits and runs into Curtis in the hallway. Dante inquires whether he has seen Michael, and Curtis responds that they were just in the Port Charles Grill. Dante takes off. Later, Jacinda arrives at the Port Charles Grill to meet with her client, who turns out to be Michael. They introduce themselves to one another. What does Jack want from Lulu? Lulu and Charlotte visit Bobby's and discuss her sentence. Lulu also mentions that she has a meeting with Jack, so when he arrives, Charlotte should return home. Rocco arrives outside with Outback and takes a table. Jack walks by and greets the youngster before stepping inside to see his mother. As part of her punishment, Lulu sends Charlotte to take Outback home with Rocco and wash him. On her way out, Charlotte tells Jack that everyone deems him the hero and her father the villain, but she doesn't believe it. Lulu apologizes to Jack for Charlotte's attitude. Jack says that he has come because he needs her aid with Valentine. He explains that Valentine wishes to visit Charlotte in exchange for assisting the WSB. Lulu bans it. Jack excuses himself to take a call. He gets an update and asks the person to notify him when it's completed. Jack returns to Lulu and informs her that Charlotte, as Valentine's daughter, is valuable to many people, and that she and Lulu may want his assistance at some point. Meanwhile, Charlotte meets Rocco and Outback outdoors and tells her brother about Brennan. She misses the independence she enjoyed while living overseas, and she misses her father the most. Who makes it out of the 5 Poppies alive? Britt tells Pascal that she is the only one who knows about this research, so quit playing games and remove the bomb from her ankle. She refuses to think the big boss would want her killed, but she believes Pascal would, and he is acting independently. He tells her it doesn't matter because she's dead, and he walks away. In the other room, Jason, Vaughn, and Joss eliminate all of the guards. Jason is quick to comment on Joss' actions, which she must have learned from the WSB. Jason warns them that they may have difficulty getting out. He conveys what he knows about the guards and that he must return for Britt. Jason takes off. Vaughn and Joss then agree that nothing is more vital than reaching the WSB, and if one of them falls, the other must continue. Jason returns to Britt, who informs him that the device is now on timer. She advises him to go while he still can, as she is already living on borrowed time. Jason refuses to let her die and manages to turn off the monitor. With 13 minutes remaining, Jason announces that they must run. Jason and Britt run into more guards, as well as Joss and Vaughn. Pascal has escaped, and they all hurry to attempt to avoid the explosives. In the show's final moments at Bobby's, Lulu asks Jack, "So what if I don't take Charlotte to see Valentine, you won't protect her?" Jack says they will continue to protect Charlotte, but she must realize that she is different from Rocco and her other family members. He walks away, saying goodbye to Rocco and Charlotte as he passes them. Anna thanks Alexis for coming into her office and adds they may contact her with more questions later. Chase believes that after she goes, Alexis will be removed off their list of primary suspects. Anna agrees, removes Alexis' photo, and replaces it with one of Curtis. Curtis enters the hospital to meet Drew, who is furious and wants to know why he is there. Curtis claims he heard someone shoot him. Drew claims it may have been him, but don't worry. He blames Michael. At the Port Charles Grill, Michael tells Jacinda that he has been looking for her, and needs her to confirm that they were together when Drew was shot last night. That's when Dante appears, asking questions. Finally, Joss, Vaughn, Jason, and Britt make it outside of the 5 Poppies just as the bomb goes off. Joss asks Vaughn whether this implies her first operation was successful. Meanwhile, Jason has pinned down and covered Britt. She informs him that he was brave, but he may now get off of her. They rise up, and Britt says she's been wanting to tell him she truly dislikes his tattoos. General Hospital spoilers reveal that the tide of scorn for Drew Quartermain is turning into pleas for forgiveness, with one intriguing notion positing a soapy amnesia plot to clear his slate. Drew's wicked acts, such as blackmailing Sonny Corinthos and sickening investigators on Stella Henry, are making him unpopular, and viewers are contemplating how to make him likable again. The amnesia theory suggests an attack, possibly at Pentonville, that erases his evil phase and restores his good guy roots, complete with former feelings for Carly Spencer and no love ties to Willow Tate. But that's only one option. Others range from killing him off for a fresh resurrection to exposing he's a fake. With fans divided, which approach will GH adopt to save Drew? The amnesia reset. Is Drew's slate clean? One popular hypothesis explains Drew's salvation through traditional soap amnesia. After a terrible assault lands him in Pentonville, he awakens as his previous self, having forgotten his cruel streak. This wipe would rekindle his ties, such as seeing Curtis Ashford as his best friend and Michael Corinthos as a trustworthy business partner, while also ending his fixation with Willow. It allows for genuine reunions and personal progress, but it also presents obstacles when others recall his wrongdoings. This path keeps Drew in play, allowing him to ponder and adjust naturally, potentially earning back admirers who are tired of his power-hungry methods. GH spoilers tease kill-off and resurrection. Will a new Drew emerge? Another fan-favorite spin. Kill Drew off dramatically, only to resurrect him later with a new persona, similar to Roger Howarth's various character switches. This death could be the result of his opponent's retaliation, providing Port Charles a break from his plans. Drew may return with a new perspective, maybe humbled by his near-death experience, or as a new character combining his characteristics with innovative elements. This bold decision resets fan perceptions, allowing him to explore his Navy SEAL past or familial ties without baggage, but it may alienate those who are invested in his present narrative. Imposter twist or Kim's return. Heartwarming revelations? Dig deeper with an imposter disclosure. Perhaps the real Drew was mind-mapped again in Pentonville, indoctrinated into villainy, which explains his heel shift. Unmasking this could redeem him by a heroic unmasking and restore his integrity. Alternatively, Kim Nero's return with her son, Julian Jerome's child but misidentified as Drew's, may soften his heart, rooting his power conflicts in familial purpose. All of these paths add depth, but fans still question whether any of them are sufficient to atone for his faults. Stay tuned for more GH updates and spoilers to discover out. Drew's eyes shot awake, the dawn light piercing through the drapes like a blade. His heart raced, not from the peaceful buzz of the world waking up, but from a fire in his chest, a tangle of ideas that had festered all night. Accusations. They swirled in his thoughts, sharp and jagged, like splinters he couldn't remove. He had no idea where they came from, but they were there, heavy and demanding, pointing fingers at everyone and everything. Cal, his roommate, was haughty and made late-night phone calls. The barista at the corner coffee shop, who seemed to know far too much about his schedule. Even his sister, Lila, had not contacted in weeks. Drew's head was a courtroom, and he was the judge, jury, and executioner, convicting everyone without proof. He swung his legs over the edge of the bed, the chilly floor pinching his feet. The flat was extremely silent, as if every creak and whisper were amplified. He checked his phone. 6:47 a.m. No messages or missed calls. Only the blank screen stared back at him, mocking his anxiety. He rubbed his temples, attempting to put together the events of last night. The Five Poppies, a seedy bar on 4th Street, had been full. Too crowded. The air was thick with sweat, cheap beer, and something else, something electric, as if the entire place was a powder keg ready to be ignited. He'd gone with Cal and possibly Lila, but the details were unclear. He recalls laughing, then shouting, then nothing. A gap in his memory, a void where answers should have existed. Drew put on a hoodie and stumbled into the kitchen, the allegations still gnawing at him. Cal was there, sitting on the counter, sipping coffee as if nothing else mattered. "Morning," Cal murmured, scarcely looking up from his phone. Drew's jaw stiffened. Was it a smirk? Was Cal hiding something? The way he scrolled through his phone was so nonchalant and intentional that it felt like a performance. Drew poured himself a glass of water while his hands shook slightly. He wanted to inquire, demand answers, but the words stayed in his throat. What exactly was he accusing Cal of? The thoughts were present, but they were formless, like smoke slipping through his fingers. The television in the living room flickered on, a news anchor's voice breaking through the silence. Breaking news from downtown. The Five Poppies, a local bar, was the scene of a massive explosion last night. Drew froze, his glass halfway to his lips. Explosion? His thoughts raced, attempting to piece together the bits. He had been there. He remembered the crowd, the loudness, and the heat. But an explosion? He turned to the television, which displayed flames licking the sky and the bar reduced to rubble. The anchor's voice continued on, calm and detached. Authorities are probing the cause. There were no fatalities reported, but multiple injuries. Witnesses described a chaotic scene. Cal looked up, his countenance unreadable. "Do you hear that? Isn't this crazy? We were just there." Drew's gut tightened. Cal's tone was too light and flippant. Was he playing dumb? Drew's allegations found their target, homing down on Cal like a rocket. He wanted to grab him, shake him, and demand to know everything he knew. But he did not. Instead, he nodded and murmured, "Yeah, crazy." His voice sounded hollow even to himself. The rest of the day unraveled. Drew left the apartment, his thoughts filled with questions. The streets were bustling with the usual city chaos. Horns screaming, people shouting, the smell of exhaust and street food permeating the air. But everything seemed odd, as if the universe was skewed just a little too much. He strolled past the coffee shop, the barista staring up. Her gaze lingered a second too long, or perhaps he imagined it. Did she know something? About the bar, him, and the previous night? He continued walking, his pace accelerating, and the allegations spread like wildfire. The gentleman on the street selling newspapers, the woman walking her dog, and the cop directing traffic were all in on whatever it was. Drew returned to the wreckage of the Five Poppies at midday. Yellow tape surrounded the scene, and cops crowded around, their radios buzzing. The air smelt like burnt wood and something bitter, toxic. He stood across the street, looking at the carnage. The bar's neon sign, which had once been alive with activity, had been smashed, its letters dangling like broken teeth. He struggled to recall. Had he noticed anything weird last night? A luggage left unattended? or a suspicious stranger. However, the harder he pushed, the more his memories resisted, like a door bolted shut. A man in a windbreaker approached, his badge glinting in the sunlight. "Do you have any business here?" he inquired, his tone harsh. Drew's heartbeat skipped. Was this a test? Did the cop know he had been to the bar? The accusations shifted inward, nagging at him. What if he had done something? What if he was the cause of the fire? He mumbled something about simply passing by and raced away, his heart pounding in his ears. Back in the flat, Lila was lounging on the couch as if she owned the place. She looked up, her expression softening. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Drew wanted to yell. Why had she not called? Why was she here now, acting as if everything was normal? He sat across from her, hands locked into fists. "Were you at the 5 Poppies last night?" he inquired, his tone harsh. Lila frowned, puzzled. "No, I was at home." "Why?" Her response felt like a lie, or perhaps it was the truth, which was worse. Why did he believe she was involved in this if she wasn't there? The charges piled up, entangling him in a web from which he could not escape. He spent the afternoon pacing, checking his phone, and browsing news websites for updates on the explosion. The reports were ambiguous: potential gas leak, possible arson, no definitive explanations. Each piece increased his paranoia. He began messaging Cal, but deleted the texts before sending them. He called Lila and hung up when she answered. He was drowning in his own thoughts, each one a new condemnation, every recollection a possible clue. As night fell, Drew returned to the remains of the tavern, drawn like a moth to a flame. The cops had left and the neighborhood was quieter, but the smell of ruin persisted. He slipped under the tape, his sneakers crunching against broken glass. He had no idea what he was looking for. All he knew was that he wanted something, anything, to make sense of the chaos in his thoughts. A sparkle drew his attention, half buried in the debris. He knelt and brushed away the ash to uncover a little metal canister about the size of a soda can. It was charred but unharmed, with weird inscriptions engraved on its side. His fingers trembled, the charges blaring loudly. Was this evidence? Was that his? Has he brought it here? He placed the canister into his pocket and fled to the shadows, his breathing shallow. Back at the apartment, he shut himself in his room, the canister sitting on his desk like a ticking bomb. He peered at it, his thoughts racing with possibilities. Perhaps it was nothing. Perhaps it was everything. The accusations did not care about evidence. They only wanted blood. Cal, Lila, the barista, and the cop, all of them were suspects, as was he. The 5 Poppies were gone, as was any prospect of clarity. All he had was this canister, a sliver of a night he couldn't recall, and a mind full of accusations that wouldn't stop. Drew awoke the next morning with the same fire in his chest, and the same questions blazing brighter. He did not trust Cal, Lila, the news, or himself. The canister sat on his desk, silent yet full of innuendo. He avoided the kitchen and Cal's unavoidable coffee and casual remarks. Instead, he returned to the streets, the ruins, and the location where it all began. The charges followed him relentlessly, each one threatening to cause another explosion, this time in his own mind. He had no idea what was real anymore. All he knew was that something had broken, perhaps the bar or himself, and if the truth was out there, it was buried beneath too much rubble to be discovered.